Xin chào tất cả các bạn. Chào buổi tối. Thứ năm lại đến rồi, chúng ta cùng gặp nhau trong chuỗi các bài giảng của các thầy cô từ các trường đại học và học viện công nghệ Ireland. Các bạn đã có thể biết Ireland là nước xuất khẩu các sản phẩm công nghệ sinh học lớn thứ hai ở trên thế giới và là một trong những nước hàng đầu châu Âu trong lĩnh vực này, nơi mà có 30.000 người được làm việc trong lĩnh vực biotechnology cũng như là công nghệ hóa sinh, công nghệ dược phẩm. Điều này cho thấy rằng Ireland là một trong những nước dẫn đầu thế giới về lĩnh vực này. Chính vì vậy, các trường đại học và học viện công nghệ Ireland là các cái cơ sở đào tạo đại học hàng đầu về như là công nghệ dược phẩm, công nghệ sinh hóa và công nghệ sinh học. Ngày hôm nay chị xin mời các bạn đến với bài giảng của Học viện Công nghệ Athlone, học viện công nghệ nằm ở trung tâm của hòn đảo của Ireland. Học viện thì cũng có một cái quy mô không quá lớn nhưng lại đào tạo từ tất cả các bậc học, từ bậc cử nhân, thạc sĩ, tiến sĩ đến sau tiến sĩ trong rất nhiều các lĩnh vực như là business, rồi hospitality, các ngành công nghệ mới, các ngành về engineering, vân vân. Và một trong những ngành học là thế mạnh của trường đó là ngành công nghệ sinh học biotechnology. Chị xin giới thiệu thầy Donal Eardly là giảng viên của khoa Life and Physical Science của AIT và thầy Karl Turley từ phòng quốc tế của AIT sẽ trình bày bài giảng ngày hôm nay. Hello Donal, how are you? How is it
Very
going
good,
now? Thank you for joining to our public lecture today on education in Ireland, Vietnam. So how is it going at Athlone right now?
Yeah, so well, we're preparing for to start back in September. Now, at the moment, it's not going to be like it was before the pandemic. So there's going to be a lot of probably online delivery of lectures, but we're trying to run all the practical lab-based work as normal. So we should have sufficient space to kind of get everyone in to do the maybe not as many labs as maybe we usually run, but as many as we can do safely, really. So at the moment, the restrictions they've eased slightly since May, but we're still not like fully operational like we used to be. So, but the college will be open for the students in the second week in September, and things may have changed a little bit from now till then. So it might make our lives a bit easier again, hopefully. So we'll just have to see how that works out,
And so with the reopening phase 3,
yeah.
As I follow the news, it seems like life is getting back to normal in Ireland now.
Somewhat. We were meant to go to phase 4 next week, which was really opening the final things like the pubs and stuff like that. But that's been delayed for another 3 weeks. So there's been a slight increase in the rate of infections again. So the government is just kind of slowing things down a bit. So it looks like, it'll be August before things are as open as much as they can be, But it's very subject to how the infection rates, if they stabilize again, and
Yeah, now I think at least that people can travel within the country, within
Yes.
Ireland, and I hope that with all the measures, prevention measures like wearing mask and so on and so forth, we can reduce the infection rate
Yes.
so that we can reach phase 4 in August.
Yes. Hopefully now
Yeah,
that will
yeah.
work out that way. Yes.
And so that the students can return to the college in September.
Yes.
Yes. And how is it at Athlone? What is the plan for? So the plan is to have blended learning, as you mentioned, right?
Yes, yes. So it's really the big issue is the size of the classroom. So we don't have many really big lecture theatres and such. So with the smaller classrooms, you're very limited to the number of students you can have in there at any time now. So it's between all the kind of different departments and all the subjects. There's limits to how many students we can have on campus at any one time. So even people who are, say, going into lecture theatres, those lectures will still have to be live streamed somehow to get it out to all the other students there. So there could well be something like a kind of rotational system where, say, if we have a class of 20, maybe it might be we could only get maybe 8 people into a room at one time, and say for 1 week we'd have a certain amount in, and then the next week there'd be a different 8 people in there, and rotate it like that. So that's probably what's going to initially be happening, I'd say, for the lectures anyhow. But as I said, for the practicals, we expect to be able to run them fairly close to normal.
I see. So I think that it seems like, but then students can go back to that normal study after semester 1. Do you think?
That's what we hope for now. Yes, I suppose it all depends if there's this dreaded second wave that the people are talking about, and if that impacts, I don't know if it does, it might mean the restrictions carry on, into next year. But like we're kind of hoping that by semester 2 it'll be pretty much fairly back to normal. Might be a case of just like maybe you still have to wear face masks in the classrooms, but we'll be able to get more people in. So that's what we're hoping for anyhow.
Okay. So thank you very much, Donal, again for and now I would like to invite you to start the presentation.
So what is biotechnology? Well, basically it's the use of living cells or organisms, either in whole or parts of, to make useful products or carry out useful processes. And it's basically technology that uses biological processes for production of. That's essentially what biotechnology is about. There's been a long history of the use of certainly the microbial aspects of biotechnology for many thousands of years for food production. So looking back in history, we can see that if we go even as far back as 6,000 BC, back to the ancient Sumerians, they had recipes for beer production. And this picture here on the upper right shows the Sumerian party, really, where they're all drinking their beer from that vat. So that's a fermentation process to convert sugars into alcohol. And as well as beer production, wine production, we find the ancient Egyptians were making leaven bread. So this is again using, here's an Egyptian lady hammering her dough, and that's another microbial process where the yeast are producing CO2, and that's raising the bread. So it's still in use to this day. And then we have all these other food products, cheeses, yogurts, kefir, fermented meats that have been used for many thousands of years in food production. So that is a kind of simple form of biotechnology. Now, there's a number of areas that are under biotechnology. So I'll just kind of outline some of the main areas in biology. So we have the pharmaceutical and medicinal aspects. There's an industrial area. Then we have the food biotechnology. So I've mentioned that a bit before, but the modern food biotechnology is much more sophisticated than the traditional methods. We have an environmental aspect, an agricultural aspect, and also energy production. So this would be the kind of biofuels. That is very important at the moment. So I'll just quickly run through the various areas that I've mentioned there. So beginning with the pharmaceutical and medicinal aspects. So if you think of antibiotics, so these are very important tool for dealing with microbial infections. And antibiotics are produced by bacteria and fungi. So first discovered in the 1920s by Sir Alexander Fleming, and have really been a mainstay of 20th century medicine. So with antibiotics, the overuse of these can be problematic as bacteria can, develop resistance to these antibiotics when they're overused. So there's always a need for new types of antibiotics to be discovered and brought to market. So one of the kind of important tools or aspects of biotechnology is to try and find these new antibiotics and successfully bring them to market. Then we have the therapeutic proteins. So these really fall under the areas of things like monoclonal antibodies for for treating cancers. We have a number of human hormones that can be made via biotech methodologies and such. So this is a rapidly expanding area of industrial microbiology, biopharmaceutical technology. Kind of falls under that headline. So that's rapidly growing. And we have the vaccine. So this is very topical with the current pandemic of the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and that there's a big rush on now to develop an effective vaccine for that virus. And there's lots of different approaches that are being used to build up these vaccines. So we have the traditional, kind of live attenuated or killed viruses, and then we have newer methods that develop vaccines from RNA or from the protein subunits of the virus that the virus tends to display on their surface. So lots of companies now are using different methodologies to try and target the SARS-CoV-2. And there's a Moderna vaccine. It seems to be the closest one to becoming available. It's going into phase 3 trials now, and that's what we call an RNA vaccine. So it's a bit of RNA wrapped up in a ball of a lipid nanoparticle, and when that goes in, then it stimulates our immune systems to produce antibodies against the SARS-CoV virus. Now, as an example of the therapeutic proteins, I just want to mention monoclonal antibodies, as these are a very important part of the production in the biotech industry. So antibodies are Y-shaped proteins, as you can see in the diagram here, that are made by our immune system, certain cells in our immune system. And they're really there to bind to any foreign structures that enter the body. So they act as a kind of flag, which then stimulates other parts of the immune system to deal with this invasion. So monoclonal antibodies in particular then are a type of antibody that has the same ability to bind a particular shape of a foreign body, which we call an antigen. And it's made in a particular way. The usual way of doing this is that, say, we want to develop antibodies for a particular chemical or a particular virus. We first inject into a mouse. Then after a number of days, we collect the B cells from the spleen of the mouse. We then merge it with a kind of type of cancer cell known as a myeloma cell. And these then are what we call hybridomas, which will produce, each one will produce a particular type of antibody. And we screen that then for the strongest, the best antibody of these cells. And we culture them up. And these are then a population of identical clones, which produce the same antibody. So this is where this monoclonal antibody comes from. Okay, so these are very antibodies that have many uses, particularly against various types of cancers, or say autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis, where we can get the antibody to bind a specific chemical structure. So I'm just going to show you a quick outline of an industrial process for making these monoclonal antibodies. So I won't dwell on it now, but basically we start off with our cells. So it's usually a mammalian cell that we designed to produce this monoclonal antibody that we've developed previously with our research. And the first part of the process is really growing up these cells into very large scale reactors. And this takes quite a number of days to complete that process. So when we get to the large scale reactor, then after a certain number of days, lots and lots of the antibody will have been produced. And then we have to isolate and purify that antibody. And we do that by a series of steps for separating the cell material from the liquid, and then carrying a series of usually what we call column chromatography steps to purify and concentrate our monoclonal antibody and separating it from all the other chemicals that were present in the liquid in the bioreactor. And eventually then we would be putting a concentrated version of the antibody in a vial, which is then injected into the patients. So a lot of the kind of production in Ireland in the biotech industry sector would have some kind of setup similar to this, where they're carrying out all the manufacturing steps to produce these antibodies. Now, another area of biotechnology is the industrial and food sector. So this is where we're talking about things like, say, amino acids. So this would be things like glutamic acid and lysine, which glutamic acid is the kind of basis from monosodium glutamate, flavor enhancer, food additive. Also with lysine, that's used commonly in in animal feed to increase the kind of nutritive value of that. So these are kind of large scale operations, using, again, these big kind of reactor vessels to grow up various types of cells to produce these. Organic acids such as citric acid and lactic acid, again, very important in the food industry. So if you look at, say a fizzy drink bottle and look at the ingredients in there, you often find citric acid is a component, or citrate, and that's again, it's a fermentation process using in the case of citric acid, it's actually a fungus to produce these acids in a very large scale, and there's a big worldwide demand for that. Now, sometimes we're interested in actual cellular biomass. So this diagram in the bottom right-hand corner is the production of corn. So corn is a fungus that is used as a meat substitute. So you can use it to make kind of vegetarian sausages and burgers and bacon and this, that, and the other. So that's becoming a more and more important market in the world. Then we have the enzymes. So enzymes are used in a number of industries, including things like the brewing industry. So for clarifying liquid, we can use these pectinases. So where say a liquid is very cloudy, to make it kind of clear. So we can do that. Things that break down starches, again, for the brewing industry, this would be amylases. We use other enzymes then to digest fats or proteins. So there's quite a big market for them. And again, these all involve growing cells in big reactor vessels and then isolating your particular product that you're interested in. So that's the industrial and food side of it. Biotechnology can also be found in agriculture. So there's a lot of areas here. The first one is the genetically modified plants. So this diagram in the top left then is golden rice. So this is a genetically modified strain of rice, which has had some genes added to it so that it can now produce beta carotene. So this is what this golden color you can see here in the rice on the kind of left-hand side of that diagram, compared to the normal wild-type rice in the bottom right, which is the usual white color there. So there's two genes that have been added to the golden colored rice here. And what they do is that there's a precursor molecule for beta carotene in the normal rice, but the enzymes are missing that can convert that into beta carotene. So by adding two genes to the rice genome, that pathway can be completed, and now you have this beta carotene rich rice, which when you eat that, the body converts that into vitamin A. And this vitamin A deficiency is a problem, particularly in South Asia, and it can cause a lot of problems, particularly with children who have insufficient levels of vitamin A. They can have a lot of problems with blindness and susceptibility to childhood diseases like measles, where basically the immune system is weakened by this lack of vitamin A. So the idea behind developing this golden rice was to deal with that nutrient deficiency. So a standard kind of helping of the golden rice should deliver enough beta carotene to solve that vitamin A deficiency. Now, it's still quite a controversial area. So the original research was done in the late 90s, and now the Bangladesh is planning to roll out growth of this type of rice this year, but there's been quite a long delay in rolling out these kind of plants due to, I suppose, public distrust and fear about eating genetically modified plants. So in the US already and Canada, there's a lot of GMO crops, like say the corn and soybean. Most of these have been genetically modified to either be resistant to certain types of herbicides or to produce insecticidal toxins, so that when insect pests eat the crops, that they get killed by this toxin that the plant is producing itself. So it's a genetic modification. It's a bacterial gene that has been moved into the plant to do that. So that's quite widespread in America. In Europe here, there's these genetically modified plants are really not very popular, and that there's a lot of kind of public resistance to the technology, and the whole issues with, like, labeling of food and all this and that. Okay, then we have the genetically modified animals. And again, I'll point to this particular picture in the bottom left. These show mice, and you see the mouse on the left and the right of the three have glowing eyes and ear tips and noses. That's a protein known as green fluorescent protein that was originally from a jellyfish that has been placed into the mouse genome. And those two mice either side of the normal mice, when you shine UV light on them, some of their cells glow green. Now, mice are quite easy to manipulate genetically and to add and remove genes from, so they're very important as disease models for many human diseases. So say where we think there's some gene involved in a particular disease, maybe Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, we could usually a mouse model is made first where that gene is inactivated, and we can see what effect that has on the mouse. So if the mouse doesn't get the disease when the gene is inactivated, that tells you that gene is somehow involved in the manifestation of the disease condition. So there are lots of different mouse strains have been developed, and a very important tool in developing new treatments for diseases and so on. Another aspect of agricultural biotechnology is the area of biofertilizers. So with fertilizers, particularly in countries where they have very large industrial agricultural sectors, problems can arise by the amount of chemical fertilizers that is put on the land. So these are usually kind of nitrogen and phosphorus-based chemical fertilizers that are spread on the land to increase the crop yield. And often what happens is that the excess fertilizers are run off the land into rivers and waterways and coastal areas, and they bring a lot of kind of nutrients which cause natural algae in the waters to grow to vast levels, and we call that process eutrophication. And where that gets too kind of out of control, it can cause a lot of death to the animals and plant life in the rivers, and problems with toxic blooms in coastal regions where some of these algae can produce dangerous toxins that can actually kill people. So biofertilizers are where we use bacterial species to supplement the nitrogen and phosphorus that's naturally there in the land. So this diagram here on the left shows a bacterium that can dissolve these inorganic phosphorus deposits that's in the soil, and that makes that phosphorus more available to the plants, and it increases the yield. Other bacteria can directly convert atmospheric nitrogen into a usable form for plants. So that's the nitrates. So plants don't have that ability to actually utilize the nitrogen gas in the atmosphere, but certain types of bacteria do. And again, when you spread these kind of bacteria on the land, you get increased yield in your crop plants without the problem of, say, these chemical fertilizers being washed off the land into the water systems. We have the environmental aspects of biotechnology. So this falls in the areas of such things as bioremediation. So that's where we can use various types of microorganisms and methodologies of plants to clean up certain sites, be they soil or waterways that have been contaminated by some toxin, or maybe have excess nutrients there or something like that. So it's a way of cleaning up and restoring the land. So sometimes, say, particularly where there's been some heavy industry occurring on a site, the land may become contaminated with heavy metals, and that can be quite hard to deal with. But there are certain bacteria and certain plant systems and genetically modified plants that have the ability to draw these kind of heavy metal contaminants out of the soil into the plant material, or to with the case of, say, a heavy metal like mercury, to actually make it more volatile, so it kind of goes into the atmosphere, and hence kind of removes the problem from the land. Waste management is another area that is a type of biotechnology. So this is, how we deal with all the human waste that's generated in our towns and cities, and also in various types of industrial processes in the kind of agricultural dairy industry. So lots of kind of liquid and solid waste streams can be generated. And again, to kind of clean up these kind of waste streams, we're often using some kind of biological process there, usually involving quite a few different types of microbial species. Finally, there's this biodiscovery and what that's about. So we know there's a lot of types of bacteria and other types of microorganisms that are in nature, in the environment, that we haven't really been able to study in the lab. So if you think of, say, where the antibiotics that we're currently using have come from, they come from usually soil bacteria that grow easily in the lab. So when we put them on these kind of solid agar growth mediums, they grow as little colonies, and then we can kind of work on them to see if they're producing anything. But we know the vast majority of the microorganisms that exist in nature do not grow in the lab. So in order to have access to all the kind of genes and enzymes that these uncultivated microorganisms possess, we have to use different methodologies. So particularly with the rise of kind of genomics and different culturing methods, we're starting to have more success in finding completely new types of, say, antibiotics and interesting enzymes that are much tougher than the normal ones we've used before. So particularly, say, with the issue of finding new antibiotics, this kind of biodiscovery area is extremely important. And there's been one recently, Teixobactin, which was isolated using these kind of novel culturing methodologies, and it's a completely new class of antibiotic It's not being used in hospitals yet, but it's still going through the kind of testing stages. But it shows that, you know, there's lots of these different classes that haven't been seen before of antibiotics that are out there, and it's just a question of kind of getting out there and looking for them. So you see this picture of a submersible vessel here. So you know, there's vast amounts of strange and unusual bacteria that are out there in the world's oceans, and it's a very underexplored environment. So we know there's going to be a lot of really useful stuff out there. It's just a question of, you know, going and looking for it and getting the kind of right samples and the right methodologies and technologies to find these you know, useful stuff. Now, then we come to the energy sector. So this is kind of important with this, with the aim of really moving away from petroleum fuels, such as the diesel, and the types of biofuels, as we call them, that can be produced at the moment include things like bioethanol. So this is basically a ethanol that is produced from plant material, and there's a number of ways of doing that. So the simplest way is to take some kind of sugar crop and ferment that, and the sugars get converted into alcohol. So that can be that can be done with kind of sugar cane, sugar beet. We then have the starch-based crops, so kind of corn, potatoes, stuff, wheat, any crop that produces a lot of starch material. So starch is basically a sugar polymer, and we can break that down into simpler sugars that you need for the fermentation process to be carried out. So that's another way of making the biodiesel. We say that's the second generation. There's problems with both of those approaches, and that is that you're using kind of food crops to make the ethanol that you can then burn in engines. And those food crops, you know, they need kind of good land to grow on to get a kind of, you know, good harvest. And if a country kind of puts a lot of kind of grants into supporting, you know, bioethanol production via food crops, it means less land has been used to actually grow the food for consumption. And that tends to put the price of the food up. So a better way is to see, can you make ethanol from kind of waste material or stuff that isn't used for food? So this is what we call the third generation, where we use the cellulose-based material. So this would be kind of straw or wood from various tree crops. And to treat that in such a way that, again, you want to convert that into simple sugars, which can then be fermented into the ethanol. So in that way, then you don't have to use really good land for growing the crops. You can use kind of much more marginal land, or, you know, take waste streams from maybe the agricultural animal husbandry area, and then make, you know, useful ethanol from that. Okay, so that's bioethanol. The biodiesel is another type of biofuel. It's pretty much just a chemical process where you convert oil and fats into diesel with the use of methanol and a catalyst in a process known as transesterification. So the thing with this is, you know, you can make this from kind of old chip oil or some cooking oils, you know, from restaurants. It's easy to do this in quite a small scale. I suppose a bit more difficult to do it in a large scale, but certainly at the small scale it works quite well. And that biodiesel, you know, burns fairly clean, and can, with a slight modification to a diesel engine, you can you know, successfully use this as a fuel for vehicles. We have biogas. So this is methane, and methane can be produced via a process known as anaerobic digestion. So, and here we can take in solid waste streams and get this useful gas that can then be used to maybe drive electric turbines and that kind of thing and generate energy. And the final one here I have is algal oil. So here in the bottom right, you can see this green material. So this is green algae grown in these clear tubes, and they can produce a lot of oils, which you can then use the oil to either, you may maybe convert to biodiesel, or you can treat it and make bioethanol from it. The thing with algae is that you don't need any good land to grow them. In fact, you can use really poor land or even deserts, where anywhere where you got plenty of sunlight. And the algae then, they're using the CO2 from the atmosphere, and you don't really need to give them that much nutrients and that kind of thing. And then they can quite effectively make oils from them. Okay, so that's the kind of energy aspect of biotechnology. So it's in there as part of the mix to kind of, move away from the fossil fuel industry. Now, it's not the final solution, but it's a part of the solution to this energy problem. Now, all of these biotechnologies, really at the heart of them is the process of genetic engineering. And that's basically where you're moving DNA from one species into another. This diagram here summarizes in simple fashion major processes that are going on here. So on the left here, we have a bacterium, and right, we have a organism or a cell from a particular organism that contains a gene that we want to move into a bacterium. So what we usually need is a vector known as a plasmid. So this is a kind of a circular form of DNA which you can add genes into quite easily, and then you can move them that into a bacterium. And once in the bacterium, then it can maybe produce a protein that's encoded by that gene, or get the bacterium to have a new functionality that it didn't have before. So usually there's some that this tends to be the heart of most processes where we're sticking a gene into a bacterium and then either moving the bacterium to somewhere else or moving that plasmid into another organism altogether. So that's at the heart. The latest tools that we now have for gene editing, such as the CRISPR-Cas9, it's a very sophisticated type of gene editing that can be carried out now. So the tools that we're using in biotechnology are getting better all the time and allowing more and more kind of sophisticated things to be done with them. Now, I just want to mention as well that there's been an explosion in the amount of data that can be generated in the biological sciences. So it's been termed the omics revolution. And what it means really is that the technologies have really increased at a very rapid rate our ability to generate really big data. So an example I can give you here is in the area of genomics. So genomics it's a kind of science that was established, I suppose, in the 1990s, and it's particularly associated with the Human Genome Project. So there was two competing projects in the 90s that sequenced the human genome. And the public project, which was a very large project, it cost $2.5 billion to produce the first version of the human genome, and that took about 13 years. So it began in about 1990, and the first draft there was ready in 2003. nowadays, that same amount of data can be generated for less than $1,000 in about 2 days using what we call next generation sequencing. So the ability to generate these an enormous amount of data. So the human genome, 3.2 billion DNA bases, and we've gone from 13 years to 2 days in about 2 decades. So that's having a big impact in all areas of the biological sciences, and it's really strongly impacting biotechnology as well. So in the omics, there's other categories of omics. So transcriptomics, that's really the RNA, how gene expression, what genes are on, what genes are off. We can monitor that in cells and animals and all this kind of thing much more easily than we used to be able to do. Proteomics is the study of the entire proteins in an organism. And metabolomics, so this is all the kind of metabolites that our biological processes produce. So that's important. Again, in human health, we can often metabolites turn up in the blood and can be, sometimes certain disease conditions would be indicative of certain chemicals that are appearing in the blood that shouldn't be there, and this kind of thing. So our ability to generate large data sets for all the chemicals that you find in living cells has again been greatly upgraded with technological improvements. Finally, that we have the microbiomes. So this is the entire microbial flora, so all the bacteria that live on our bodies and in our bodies, and it's quite a new area in the sciences, which has shown a lot of interest, and it has a major role to play in our health. So these are really allowing new approaches and new information to be generated in all kinds of fields that are effective, that are in the kind of area of technology. So where's the future going? So really, this is these advances are going to lead to better treatments for diseases which, say, at the moment are untreatable. So if you think of things like, say, these much more effective cancer treatments. So impact of the monoclonal antibodies on cancer has really been quite astounding, and that there's many more of these molecules being produced now. So, and as these technologies improve, then it will mean many diseases will be much more treatable. We have the gene therapy. So this is where, for a number of inherited genetic disorders, so things like, say, sickle cell anemia or cystic fibrosis, where, say, there's one gene that's faulty and it causes the disease symptoms to manifest. It will now be possible to actually fix the genes in these patients, and so that the symptoms will disappear. So the diagram here in the top right shows how viruses are very effective ways of transferring genetic material into cells, and there's we can use these in a positive way as well. So as well as all the kind of diseases we associate with viruses, they do have some good points as well. And so, say to treat cystic fibrosis, we could put in a functioning copy of the faulty gene. Now it's a ion transporter that's not working in the CF, and we can actually inject that into the cells of the lungs, and that will then fix that problem. and the functionality, the proper functionality of the lungs will manifest. So there's a number of genetic disorders where this is going to be a viable treatment in the not too distant future. Then we have the area of synthetic biology. So this is quite an exciting area where we're building cells, be able to build cells from scratch to do highly specific kind of tasks, and using kind of really engineering principles of standardization of functional parts, and then arranging these into a kind of biological circuit, which will have a known output from particular types of inputs. So very similar to how you would design an electrical circuit for in electronic circuit for a computer or a chip, say. Then we're going to have the same thing at the biological level with these biological circuits, and building in particular types of functionality that we could then deploy as kind of environmental sensors, or maybe as be able to monitor blood in a person, and if a certain chemicals are detected, then they will send a signal to your remote doctor via the 5G network or something like that. So very exciting kind of area that again is making the rapid progress. Now, along with this, some of these technologies are so revolutionary that really they're moving faster than our society may be able to deal with, and things like, say, designer babies, and editing the human genome at the germline level. So this is a very controversial subject. We've had the incident recently in China where the scientists edited 2 babies, and he's now in jail. It's very controversial. So certain of these technologies will have to be talked about at the societal level to see, do limits have to be placed on the deployment of certain technologies and so on. So now, just to mention about the biotech industry in Ireland. So Ireland is very active. There's over 85 biopharmaceutical companies that have a presence in Ireland, and of these 25 top pharmaceutical companies, significant operations in this country. We have over 30,000 people employed in the sector. The fastest growing part of that sector is what we call the biologics manufacturing. So this is the monoclonal antibodies, and gene therapies in the future are going to become quite important here. So you can see the growth there. There was 2 manufacturing plants in 2003 for biologics. Okay, now this year there's 20, and there's more coming. So Ireland really is at the centre of the biopharma industry. Over 80 billion in biopharma chem exports. That's the entire pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical industry collectively, say. And we're now the 2nd largest exporter in the EU. So Ireland really is at the heart of the world biotech industry. So this is just a, and all the big players have a presence here. So the job market is very healthy, and there's we said churn in the market. So once you get a bit of experience, you get in one company, often you can easily move to other companies, and so it's the kind of career opportunities we were talking about then. So it could be looking at the upstream. So this is the kind of all the growth processes that you need in the plant. Downstream is really the pure biological hormone or whatever, or the techniques in purifying. Then we have other various roles: cell culture technician, quality control analyst, and quality assurance specialists are very important. The quality is of prime importance, and this is a highly regulated industry. So it's a very important area, and many of our graduates have kind of gone into these fields, these areas in the industry. Also, the regulatory affairs, again, very important. And the Irish workforce has a very good record with the regulatory side of the industry. Been very successful with say, FDA audits of products to be sold in the United States, for instance, and the European version of that as well. So very healthy there. Now, also there's a pretty active graduate research in the higher education institutes. So students after doing a primary degree in biotechnology, there's many avenues available for further research in a number of different areas, so including things like medical devices, regenerative medicine, this kind of thing. So just to talk about biotechnology at Athlone IT, so we have a 3-year level 7 BSc degree in biotechnology. Okay, that's an ordinary degree. Then concurrently we have a 4-year level 8 honours degree program. And also we have what we call a 1-year add-on level 8. People who've done the 3-year level 7 biotechnology, and they have the option then of doing an extra year to get to the kind of honours degree level. So it's like the 4th year of the level 8 course. And then we have a 1-year MSc in Biopharmaceutical Technology as a follow-on. So this is a taught master's degree that really helps to kind of prepare students for the biopharma sector in Ireland and elsewhere in the world. So that's what we have in Athlone. And as you know, we're in the process of converting to a technological university. So we're going to be merging with the Limerick Institute and there'll be certain scale up of facilities that would be associated with that. Okay, that's my talk.
Okay. Thank you, Donal, for the lecture. And so can I have a couple of questions on the presentation? First of all, so what are the requirements for students to join biotech program at AIT?
Yeah, so now it's really just once that kind of functional English is up to the kind of expected level. So I'm sure Karl will give you more information on that. So we've found some of the students we've had from Asia have tended to be done very well, actually. So they tend to have a good maths background, of course, but really once the English is up to the required standard, then that should be fine. Many of our Irish students say wouldn't have sometimes they don't have any science subject coming into the first year of the course. So we do start off at a quite a low level and quickly build up these students to the level required to kind of continue on. So English would be the most important one.
Right, I see. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the student needs a science background to join especially for undergrad, right? And how about the MSc level? Do they require a first degree in science to join biotech program?
No, a second class honors is sufficient. So that one now with the MSc course, there's quite a high demand for that. So and there's a limit on the places we can kind of offer. So
I see.
Yeah, but it's quite a popular one, that particularly with international students as well.
Oh, I see. Why do you think so? Why is it so popular?
Well, I think it's
yeah.
seen as, because the kind of biopharmaceutical industry is so strong at the moment in Ireland, and as part of that program, that there's training up at there's a national centre for bioprocess training up in Dublin, that they do a number of courses with us as part of the MSc. So it's seen really as a way of quickly getting into the biopharma industry at a pretty good high level, say. Now, with many of our students that have just finished the biotechnology degrees and have gone straight into the industry. So I suppose once you get in and you have a bit of experience, if you have more qualifications, it will open up, I suppose, more opportunities for progression in these careers.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where you can say that the MSc gives you a bit more qualifications for the industry.
I see. It sounds very encouraging. And can I ask that, so I guess that the students in biotechnology program would have to work on many projects, right?
Yeah, well, so we do a lot of lab-based practical sessions, but in the fourth year of the program, you have an individual project that each student has 8 weeks in the lab to do this, and then they write a thesis and do some do an oral presentation. So so there's a lot of practical work, and there's a lot of techniques and instrumentation that the students will become familiar with. So it gives quite a thorough kind of training in many aspects of biotechnology, which people benefit to them.
Mm-hmm. And has there been any ideas or projects that the students working on that have been commercialized?
Well, probably not at the undergrad level, really, because it's quite a short amount of time to develop sufficient data to carry on to a higher level. But what often happens is that, say, with some of our research students who are doing masters and PhDs by research, often the undergraduates will link up with them and maybe have a project that be related to their research area, and then say after the degree is finished, some of the students then actually move on to do master's research and PhD projects, sometimes based on stuff they may have originally come across in their fourth year research project. So it is a possibility, but it doesn't happen too much from a fourth year project now.
I see. And from your presentation, I have seen that I've learned that the vast areas of usage for biotechnology, ranging from food to consumption product to agriculture, environment, energy, and genomics, and so on and so forth. Now, a little big question that you may know Yuval Noah Harari with his well-known books, Homo sapiens, Homo Deus, and 21 Lessons for 21st Century, where he was talking about the meeting between biotechnology and technology that will be coming what he called human hacking.
Yes.
Can you say something about that? When will that happen, and what are your views about that?
Well, it's very interesting area. I mean, people like, say, Ray Kurzweil working at Google is has this concept of the singularity, where, you know, basically human consciousness can be merged with the machine technology and that kind of thing. I think that myself, I think that's a bit far-fetched. I mean, certainly that there's we're probably going to get it to a stage where maybe we can, you know, link up to the internet via kind of implantable devices straight into our brains and then this kind of thing. But I think with, say, things like, say, human consciousness, there's still the researchers still can't pin down what actually human consciousness is and where it fits in the body, if it does at all. I mean, some researchers reckon consciousness is not even in the body. It's kind of, I don't know, a non-local, maybe a field around us or something like that. But I don't believe that we'll ever be at a stage of, say, downloading our minds into a computer and have a computer with your personality there, you know. But there'll be other exciting things, like certainly things like, say, the understanding of the aging process. That seems to be something now that we may be able to slow down or even reverse, and that it's a very interesting area. So, I mean, that raises a question, say, if treatments become available in the future where you could really reverse the aging process, and, you know, people start living 150, 200 years, that's not, that may be closer than we think, you know. And that's going to have a major, you know, if that does happen, that will have a major impact on how we arrange societies, and, you know, so it's a very exciting time, and certainly, you know, with the way information technology is increasing at such an enormous rate, and software is eating every aspect of work and society, you know, that there's going to be amazing, I think, new technology that we will be using on our bodies. But it's my belief that the consciousness thing is different. It's a much more, you know, ephemeral area that I don't think our science will capture that. Yeah.
But you mentioned about, you know, things like genetic engineering, yes, the modification, gene modification. I mean, you know, so it seems like the probability of you know, engineering the gene and the hacking inside human body. Yes. It seems there is such a probability, right?
Well, we can say the technology is there now, you know, and it could be used in a pretty dramatic way. At the moment now, there's an international ban on any kind of research which affects the human germline, so that, say, you know, it's not passed down to the generations. But some researchers are arguing that we should start using that technology now to fix all of the genetic disorders where there's a single error in a gene that causes the disease, and to eliminate that completely from the human germline. And then, you know, if we go down that road, and as we know more and more about how the genes influence things like our physical features, be that height, intelligence, all that kind of thing, there's going to be pressure to use that technology, you know. And I think that will happen, I think, regardless of what international agreements are made between countries. Once tools are made, they're used. And we've always used our tools over the centuries and millennia. And, you know, people are going to use these tools as well. So, you know, particularly if you're a billionaire and you have the resources to build your own facilities, you know, you're going to do it.
Very interesting. And so it seems like we're at a time when the pace of progress is even more faster, and it seems like it is even faster every day.
Absolutely,
and it seems like it's high time or build more knowledge in these the areas. It seems pressing issues that we all build this knowledge as a human being, as a species, to build knowledge around these issues, so that we can at least do something. For example, like do a regulation on this kind of thing, like what you mentioned about genetic engineering and so on and so forth. But if such a law or regulation would be available, at least we need people or knowledge around this issue.
Indeed. Yes, exactly right. Yes, yeah. And, you know, it is a very exciting time. So, you know, it could go very well and we could have a wonderful future, or it could be a complete disaster, you know, depending on how this technology is used. So, you know, hopefully it'll go well for us, you know, but we'll see.
Okay. So, Donal, thank you so much for a very informative and interesting lecture. I really appreciate your time with us today. On behalf of the viewers of Education in Ireland, Vietnam, I would like to thank you and thank Karl, Turley at Athlone Institute of Technology for your presentation. Các bạn thân mến, như vậy là một bài giảng nữa chúng ta lại vừa được nghe từ thầy Donal Eardly của Học viện Công nghệ Athlone về một chủ đề nữa rất là thú vị và cũng rất là nóng hổi, đó là biotechnology. Trước cái bài giảng này thì chị cũng chưa có nhiều kiến thức về lĩnh vực này, nhưng mà sau 45 phút vừa rồi thì chị đã học được rất là nhiều, và chị hy vọng tất cả các bạn cũng đã như vậy, cũng đã học được thêm về những cái ngôn ngữ mới về một lĩnh vực công nghệ sinh học là một trong những lĩnh vực hàng đầu của Ireland. Và bây giờ chị xin giới thiệu tiếp tục là thầy Karl Turley từ phòng quốc tế của Học viện Công nghệ Athlone sẽ giới thiệu về các cái dịch vụ hỗ trợ sinh viên quốc tế của trường. Mời các bạn cùng theo dõi. Trong khi lắng nghe thì cũng như mọi khi, nếu bạn nào có câu hỏi gì thì hãy đừng ngần ngại sử dụng phần comment hoặc inbox. Team Education in Ireland Việt Nam sẽ sẵn sàng trả lời các bạn. Còn bây giờ chúng ta cùng bắt đầu lắng nghe thầy Karl Turley.
Okay, hello everybody. I'd like to thank Education in Ireland for giving me the opportunity to present Athlone Institute of Technology, AIT, a technological university for the region based in Ireland. So Ireland, we'll have to start with, where is Ireland? Because I know some of you might have heard of the country, famous for our music, for our movies, for our culture, but you don't really know where we're located, but we're in the northwest of Europe. You'll see here on the map, beside the United Kingdom. So in Ireland, there's some misconceptions. Ireland is actually an independent country, so we are not part of the United Kingdom, the Republic of Ireland, and we speak English. We're an English-speaking country. So this is very important for students from Southeast Asia who want to learn their third level education or do their masters in an English-speaking country. We're part of the European Union. We have a small population, 4.9 million. I know many cities throughout Asia and Southeast Asia have higher populations, but in the Republic of Ireland, it's 4.9 million. We use the euro, so this is our national currency. And in Ireland, we're very proud that actually over 10% of our population are international residents. In Ireland, we have a very rich diaspora throughout the world, and they estimate about 17 million people worldwide, based in UK, United States of America, Australia, and many other countries. So the advantages of Ireland, we have a very unique culture. So Irish culture has a very rich and deep history. We have a beautiful landscape because we are an island. We're surrounded by water. So it's very famous and very popular tourist destination. Here alone, over 11 million tourists visit Ireland. So that's over double the population of our country. In Ireland, we have many government-funded institutes with affordable fees. So Athlone Institute of Technology is a government-funded institute. In Ireland, this is very important for the parents watching. It's an extremely safe and friendly country. So in Ireland, last year, according to the Global Peace Index, we're the 12th safest country in the world. We're always consistently ranked in the top 15 in the world, okay? So that's something that you can be assured of, that it is very safe. There are very favourable policies towards our international students. So our Irish government want international students to come to our country. We have an open policy. We are very open. We're very warm. We want you to come here. So we've set favourable policies for you, such as students can work part-time throughout their academic studies if it's a full-time program. So you can work 20 hours per week during your studies, 40 hours per week during your semester breaks. That would be the summer or the winter. We have also very favourable post-study work visa policies. So when you graduate from Ireland, from AIT and from other institutes, if it's an honours degree, you can stay for 1 year. If it's a master's degree, you can stay for 2 years. And this is to allow you to gain employment. If you get a full-time job in a skill shortage area, or just a full-time job with a certain salary, you can stay longer. So we have very favourable policies there. Just interesting to note that we have €10.10 per hour. This is the minimum for part-time work. So did you know in Ireland we have many global headquarters or global companies located in Ireland? The main reasons that they choose and decide a fantastic place to set up work in their companies is that we are the only English-speaking country in the Eurozone after Brexit. We have an excellent quality education system. So a lot of these companies, such as Facebook's, Google, LinkedIn's, Pfizer's, they're all asked, why do they choose Ireland? And the main reason that they always cite is the high quality education system with the work-ready graduates coming out of our institutes. This is obviously called a strong talent pool. We have an excellent location, a geographic location in Europe with access to 500 million people. And in Ireland, it's been cited as an easy country to do business. So in Ireland, we've many global companies. As I said, we have the top 10 global pharmaceutical companies based in Ireland, 18 of the top 25 medical technology companies based here. We've over 50% of the world's leading financial services and 9 of the top 10 global ICT companies. So Ireland is famous for its software and for its exporting of this product, and for its ICT, for its medical device industry, for the pharmaceutical industry. So in these areas, you'll see a lot of our programs that we offer within Athlone Institute of Technology reflect the demand for jobs. So we are established in 1970. We're celebrating our 50th year anniversary this year. As I said at the beginning, we're a government-funded institute. All of our programs are internationally recognized. So if you study a degree in Ireland, an AIT, so most of our honours degrees are 4 years with some exceptions of 3. This will be equivalent to a level 8. Our master's we call as a level 9, and then the PhD is level 10. So we offer an AIT from degree right up to PhD. We have an extremely high employment rate that we're very proud of. Within 6 months of graduating, 94% of our graduates are employed. Within our programs, we have placements in almost all of them. All of the software or the science and engineering are highly practical. So is our humanities, our hospitality and business as well. And they're all industry focused. So this is very important for you as a student, that you need to have hands-on learning. In Athlone, we pride ourselves in our excellent location, right in the center of the country. And there are scholarships available for our students coming from Southeast Asia. So in AIT, we have 6,000 students. We have over 62 nationalities represented on campus. Of our full-time students, we have 15% which are international. So this is an extremely high percentage. So if you're coming from Vietnam or Malaysia or Philippines, you could be in a classroom with someone from Brazil, from China, from anywhere in Europe, from Germany, from France. You'll see a lot of different nationalities represented on campus. We've a lot of students from Africa. We've a lot of students from other parts of the world. In AIT, we have 65 CEO courses. So this is 65 undergraduate courses on offer with 4 faculties as well. So we're very proud the fact that AIT was voted the #1 Institute of Technology of the Year in Ireland for 2020. And we also received this accolade in 2018. So in the last 3 years, we have been awarded the Good University Guide, Sunday Times Institute of Technology of the Year. So we're very proud of that fact. Another interesting note for international students is that in AIT, we were ranked #1 for the Irish Survey of Student Engagement for Student Satisfaction. So this is the 6th consecutive year that we were awarded this. So just to get in, the 4 faculties, Faculty of Business and Hospitality, Engineering and Informatics, Science and Health, and also the continuing professional online and distance learning. So within the business and hospitality, some programs that are very popular within Southeast Asia, we have a 3-year honors degree in accountancy. This is very, very attractive for our international students. We have degrees and honors degrees in business, business information systems, international business management, business and law. And very popular now in the last number of years is our digital marketing. So we have an honors degree in digital marketing. Within our hospitality and tourism, we've hospitality management, we've bar supervision, and a very popular one in Southeast Asia as well is our hotel and leisure management and our hospitality management. We have also a 4-year honor degree in culinary entrepreneurship and a 3-year ordinary degree in culinary arts. And we have a new 4-year degree designed in food business and technology. So this is very exciting area to be in. In the sports side, we have sports management, and we have an international placement within that 4-year degree. And then we've sport, business, sport and rec. Science and health is a very large faculty. It's our largest faculty now with our most number of students in this faculty. We have nursing, we have sports science, we have a broad range of sports science programs, and that ties in with our international arena, which I'll explain later. We have also the social science department. Applied psychology is very popular now with our students from Malaysia, and we also have social care, early years care and social studies. And the life and physical sciences, we have biotechnology, microbiology, which is a very unique program to AIT, pharmaceutical sciences, which include drug development and analysis. We have bioveterinary science and applied science. In our engineering and informatics, we have a number of departments as well. So within our construction, we have civil engineering and quantity surveying. We have a fantastic design and music department with graphic and digital design, animation and illustration, which are popular in Southeast Asia. And we also have design with product innovation. Polymer mechanical department, quite unique to AIT. We're teaching polymer and plastics engineering since our foundation in 1970. Software is something that AIT is extremely strong at. We have links with our partners Ericsson, which are based in Athlone as well. And we have software design undergraduate offerings and different streams. So I know mobile apps and connected devices, very popular now, cloud computing and virtual reality and gaming. These are very, very on-trend, very excellent programs. Computer engineering, very, very strong. Always demand for graduates from this area in Ireland as we have a shortage of them. We have a broad range of programs now on offer for our masters. So in Ireland, generally a master's program is 12 months duration. That's a taught master's. We also have the option for masters by research, which is the same level, but this can take 24 months. So in AIT, the taught masters that we have on offer now currently, we have an MSc in data analytics, which is extremely popular in Southeast Asia. We have an MSc in software engineering. We have an MA in accounting. We have a Master of Business. We have an MSc in biopharmaceutical technology. So we have new master programs on offer September 2020 and also 21, with the 4 of them being on offer for September 21. And they are an MSc in software design with artificial intelligence, cloud native computing, cybersecurity, and virtual and augmented reality. So these are very exciting programs that have been designed by industry and where there is demand for the graduates. So if you complete this master's degree, you have a very strong opportunity to gain full-time employment afterwards. So I'm going to talk to you about our ambassador and one of our alumni, Keith Phan from Vietnam. So Keith was a Vietnamese student. He came to AIT, spent 5 years with us. And you can see from his testimonial on the screen right now that he really enjoyed his 5 years in AIT. So he actually refers to that Athlone is both his second family and his home away. So what he was very, I suppose, delighted with, and one of the highlights of his program, he was saying that the courses provide him to get hands-on experience. So I know Keith very well over the last 5 years, and now he's working with Accenture in Dublin. These are some photos of Keith. So you see on the right-hand side, he's with our president, Professor Ciarán O'Cahan, at his graduation ceremony, and there's sharing some moments with his friends traveling around Ireland and Europe. So they look very happy. This is another student, Phan from Vietnam. Phan also completed the 4-year honours degree in digital marketing. He's a fantastic student. He was an Education in Ireland ambassador, and he's a very keen photographer, as you can see from his photos. So there he is sharing some fun times with his friends. This lovely, colourful picture is in the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Dublin, which we organise buses for our students to go and visit. And then these are some pictures of Athlone town, which you see the beautiful River Shannon and the castle, and then Galway City, which is a beautiful city, small city on the west coast of Ireland. So Phan also completed the 4 years degree, and he's progressing to do the Masters of Business this year within AIT. So why Athlone? Athlone is a beautiful town. It's located right in the centre of the country. It's referred to the heart of Ireland. It's a tourist town on the River Shannon, which is the longest river in Ireland. And in Athlone, small, the town centre itself of 25,000 people. So we're 1 hour, 20 minutes from Dublin. So it's very, very short distance. And this has an excellent transport infrastructure between Dublin and Athlone. So you have buses on the hour, you have train services. So all of our accommodation is within 5 minutes walking. All of the amenities are within 5 minutes walking. In Athlone, we're very lucky to have many multinational companies. Ericsson's, I mentioned, Alkermes, Covidien, to name a few, Medtronic. So we've a lot of these companies based in the Midlands region. And we have a lot of indigenous companies as well, Irish companies that are doing very, very well, that are employing our graduates. In Athlone, it's one of the lowest living costs in the country for a student. So that's another strength to study in. So our campus here is an overview of our campus. It's very green, as you'll see. Everything is walking distance. So from our engineering on the left-hand side of the screen to the right, you will see our nursing building. So 10 minutes walking from one building to the other. All of the accommodation you'll see on the outskirts of the picture. So you have student apartments and houses within 5 minutes walking. So we were the first in Ireland to have an indoor athletic running track, and I would say it's world class. It's probably the best institute to study in if you're in athletics and sports in terms of the facilities and the access to the facilities. So all of this is on our campus. So these are other pictures of our fantastic sports arena, our gymnasium. Students can join the gym, and it's very, very affordable, very cheap, and they can pay per semester or they can pay as you go. So there's different payment options. So going on to graduates, the graduate server, we've a fantastic a percentage, a very high rate of our graduates. So 94% of our graduates are in full-time employment within 6 months. It's one of the highest in the country. And going on to the tuition fee. So how much will this cost me? So in AIT, all of our undergraduate programs, whether they're engineering or science, are the same fee. Our taught masters, all of them, are €12,000 per year, with the exception of our nursing, which is 18,000. So if you want to come and study in AIT, you can, and we do have scholarships available, up 1,000 to 2,000 merit-based scholarships, depending on your qualification. In Athlone, the estimated living cost is €7,000 to €7,500 per year. This is a very high estimate because some of our students like to cook at home for things like that, so they get to save a lot of money. The cost of living, as I said, includes accommodation. So on average, we estimate it's 40% cheaper than renting in Galway, and also over 50% than renting in Dublin, which is a huge cost saving. So entry will vary from country to country. So we generally look for year one entry at undergraduate level. You need to complete a high school certificate and a leaving certificate. So this varies from each country. So if you finished your high school, you can look for year one entry. Sometimes there might be a gap and you might need to do a foundation program, and you can do that in our partners in Ireland or in your home country. And then we also accept the IELTS, TOEFL and other English language, and the Duolingo for this September as well for master's level. So I know a lot of people are very keen to see how AIT are doing, how is Ireland doing with the COVID-19. So I know a lot of you are watching a lot of news and social media. So in Ireland, we have had a very proactive response by the Irish government. We've done very well at dealing with the pandemic that we're now all facing. So the Irish government have been praised by the WHO, the envoy, saying that we've dealt with it very, very well. Actually, the Irish government have a roadmap to reopen the Irish economy. Initially, it was a 5-phase plan. That was reduced to 4 phases because of the progression at the beginning. We're doing very well. Now we're in phase 3, and this will be reviewed on August the 10th as well. So in AIT, we were, I suppose, very adaptive for our students who were currently in their second semester in March when the COVID-19 came. So what the students did, they got to finish off the program with online classes and online examinations and assignments. So all of our students have completed their program of study. They've received their grades back in middle of June. So we've done very, very well with dealing with the problem. A very high percentage, over 70% of our international students have stayed in Ireland throughout the COVID pandemic. And we had to help facilitate some of the students who wanted to go home, help them with flight bookings, with transportation to Dublin Airport. Some of the students, when they were here, they were having trouble finishing their online classes and their examinations. So we set up, our international set up a laptop loan scheme for some of the students. Some of the students were finding it difficult because they lost their part-time job. The Irish government actually have a COVID pandemic payment set up. As a student, you got a €350 payment per week for this. So this is something very, very good from the Irish government looking after our international students. So some of our students didn't have part-time work in AIT, so they couldn't get this payment, and they were struggling for a little money. We arranged free food for them and dropped it off to their apartments. For 2020, September 2020, we are open. We are going to be accepting students to AIT. So we have our class commencement dates are the 28th of September for year 1, the middle of September, 14th of September for year 2, 3 and 4. And our Masters has been deferred to the 5th of October start date. We will have a blended approach towards classes. So we will try to have as much classes on campus as possible. And also we will have a number of classes online. So this is my contact details. So you'll see my email there again and my Facebook page again. I hope that you enjoyed my presentation, and I'd like to thank Education in Ireland for the opportunity. Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Karl, for your presentation. Now I would like to say a few words in Vietnamese with our followers. Các bạn thân mến, chúng ta đã vừa nghe phần giới thiệu về Học viện Công nghệ Athlone với thầy Karl Turley từ phòng quốc tế của trường. Nếu các bạn còn bất kỳ câu hỏi gì về Học viện Công nghệ Athlone cũng như về du học Ireland nói chung thì hãy đừng ngần ngại inbox hoặc cho Education in Ireland Việt Nam, hoặc là tham gia nhóm du học Ireland. Các bạn có thể đặt các câu hỏi ở trong đó để các thành viên trong nhóm có thể giúp chia sẻ kinh nghiệm. Team Education in Ireland cũng luôn sẵn sàng giải đáp mọi thắc mắc của các bạn. Thay mặt cho tất cả các cái followers của chúng ta, chị xin cảm ơn thầy Karl Turley cũng như thầy Donal Eardly từ Học viện Công nghệ Athlone đã trình bày bài giảng rất nhiều thông tin và thú vị ngày hôm nay. Chị cũng xin cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã theo dõi và hãy tiếp tục đồng hành với Education in Ireland Việt Nam trong các bài giảng tiếp theo vào mỗi thứ Năm hàng tuần vào lúc 7:30 tối. Còn bây giờ xin cảm ơn và hẹn gặp lại.